And welcome back, everyone, to Zanpakuto Creation Series. Today's Zanpakuto Creation Series comes to us from Death by Stupidity, who asked the question, what is the Zanpakuto of Clay Morington from Nexo News? I think it's a Nexo Knight character, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, Clay Morington. So if I check, there's the Nighton News Network with Fandom Wiki. Okay, yeah, it is Nexo Knights in the series. I thought it was Nexo Knights. So I've said it before. I'm not going to bother really repeating it, but because I'm not as invested in Lego characters as I am some of the other characters that I do these series on, they prove to be a bit more challenging depending on exactly what their powers and abilities are. One of the few big defining features of this character is that he is apparently very organized, very dedicated to being a knight, very dedicated to knighthood, can be somewhat reserved, and is very emotionally driven sometimes. He's confident in his abilities, values hard work, and has a practicing need to micromanage and lead. Magic, he has apparently he has incredible magical abilities. However, using magic with him seems to be a strain on him. At first, he was too drained to join the battle. After being released from his magical stasis, however, he was able to figure out how to download Nexo power data from the system. It doesn't actually say what his magical abilities are, so lovely. He's also a very skilled swordsman, capable of actually disintegrating stone monsters with a swing of his sword. It shows great physical strength. So, that's a summary of what he's capable of doing. That being said, a couple things stood out. One, micromanaging, being very by the book. That struck me as an interesting chord that we could use for something along for Zanpakuto. Add on the fact that when I saw the word disintegration, I'm like, okay, I think I have a concept going in my head here. So his type is a Keto type. The sealed form of his Zanpakuto would be a katana. Now its release would be wipe away, and its name would be a simple word, cleanser, or kurenza, as Japanese would be. Its Bodkai would be a world cleansed, or Jakasan Reta Seikai. Its spirit would look basically like a phoenix, something that kind of revives and, reconstitutes itself, but without the fire. It's not a fire type Zanpakuto. It's more just like kind of a glowing bird in many ways. If the form it takes would not be anything amazing. It would be it would be something similar to Engetsu, where the sword itself does not change its shape, but it's surrounded by a massive flaming Ryatsu, more or less. That said, this isn't quite that way, but I imagine what we would see here is it releases its Zanpakuto. He releases the Zanpakuto. You would get you'd get this glowing effect where a large amount of not a large amount, but enough energy to look like almost like a club shaped like a sword is surrounding the blade, and look basically like particles, glowing particles surrounding the blade. And what the sword does, is my initial thought was, okay, it disintegrates anything it comes in contact with, Ryatsu notwithstanding. But I'm like, well, that's pretty haxed. What if I do it instead of this, because we're going with cleanser, micromanaging, all that concept, being kind of uptight, neat freak, whatever. Instead of disintegration, we go with whatever comes in contact with the energy starts to revert to its base form. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if it were to say come in contact with clothes, the fabrics would start to revert back to like the base form, unrefined. It would basically just turn into either yarn, wool, whatever the Shinigami robes are made of, until it basically kind of just breaks apart. If it comes in contact with a Zanpakuto that's released, the Zanpakuto would unrelease itself and go back to its sealed form. And if you were to say be in contact with it long enough, the Zanpakuto might actually revert back to Asauchi. And then the Asauchi might even revert back to just, molten metal or anything. Essentially, it's a rewind effect on whatever. It's not quite like time travel or anything like that, or time manipulation, but it's again reverting things back to their base state, the previous state. Now, that being said, I think a weakness of the blade should be that just being in contact with the energy field is not enough. It's with every strike, with every time you come back into contact with the energy field. So you'll swing the blade, you'll clash. Let's say the Zanpakuto suddenly reverts back to its Shikai state. If you're going into like a Shinigami battle. But if you remained in a sword lock, the sword's not going to revert any further. You'd have to swing again and clash again, get into the range of the effect for it to do the same thing again. So that would actually be an inherent weakness, especially in a Zanpakuto battle, a battle between two Shinigami, where if your Zanpakuto gets reverted back into its sealed state, you can just re-release the sword, you're fine. Also, while this hypothetically could work on a Bankai, like Ichigo's Bankai would actually be completely screwed against the Zanpakuto because his Bankai is melee with a one range ability, as far as we know. Two now, but it's mostly a melee type, so it would just go back to the sealed state otherwise. Similar to like someone like Renji's or even Kenpachi's. Although Kenpachi is one of those examples where the Ryatsu, the sheer Ryatsu would probably be too much for the. He would just overpower this Zanpakuto's effect. So there's that, but yeah, again, say like Bankais that have like range effects, all that. It's not going to do anything. It will try to revert the effect a little bit, but the Shikai is not going to be able to do anything. The Bankai, I honestly think, is just kind of like Rukia's Bankai, where it's this giant explosion of glowing particle cleansing the world, going back to like a base state, as it were. So that would be the effect that'd be good against, say, like a wide range melee attack. Wide range melee, a wide range radius effect type of attack. So yeah, because that way you'd be able to counter the large incoming effect of a technique coming towards you. Or if you're like surrounded by enemies, you just revert them back to whatever they were previously. Add on to the fact that I think the effects of the Bankai are more powerful than the effects of the Shikai, in the sense that instead of reverting to just the single base ability, you're reverting down to to their prime like form. Whatever the most basic form they could get to, that's what automatically gets returned to. So it could be a devastating Zanpakuto in the right circumstance. There's still many ways to get around this thing. Just have range attacks and never have your sword clash with this thing. If you're a hollow, just fight from range. In fact, if you're anyone, just fight from range. So ultimately, yeah, that would be the Zanpakuto of Clay Morington. And I am getting that name right. Clay Morington? Yeah, Clay Morington. Thanks for watching, though. Hope you enjoyed. What do you think of the Zanpakuto? Let me know. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.